There really is a faster than the speed of sound, I would call it, a network of frequency that we all can connect into as we use these sound frequencies to uplink to the master computer, or the infinite power, or however you want to call it, the Godhead, the generating, organizing, delivering, destroying frequencies. The sound allows us to hyperlink to one another and uplink to this this frequency, this higher frequency. And I was saying this yesterday with the Graces, my women's group, the Graces, that no matter what kind of multiple, we'll just say it, multiple time streams, or multiple different kind of conjunctions of different celestial movements, and different, if you want to go into, and you can listen to my very interesting interview with Dr. Michael Salla, the one of the foremost leaders of something called exopolitics. But we talk about basically the parallel time streams and this kind of thing. So you could look at this in a bunch of different ways. But however you want to see it, there's a major conjunction and crossroads of multiple agendas, multiple kind of aspects of human experience, human life, and the shifting of human consciousness on the planet. And everyone's kind of trying to figure out exactly what those agendas are. I don't believe that there is just one agenda. I think there's a lot of different kind of, both because we live on a polarity planet, there's both the agenda of the ascension, and there's agendas that are more about keeping power and control. And both of them exist, because that's how this planet works. And sometimes the light wins, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that's part of the polarity experience. So however you kind of want to look at all of that, there is a supra agenda. And the supra agenda for the whole galaxy universe is much bigger than just planet Earth. But certainly we're participating, and more people, more humans are waking up to participate in what is hopefully going to be a more ascended future, and a more conscious history, because both of those things can be affected through our actions and our meditations and our frequencies and the way that we decide to live this moment, this day. That's how time actually works, instead of horizontally. So all of that is the polarity and the different types of agendas, the timelines, all of the different aspects of things that are happening both personally for us, in the collective, on planet Earth, and off planet, in the galaxy and beyond the galaxy, because they just, they're finding galaxy after galaxy. There's millions and hundreds of millions of galaxies. So we are not alone, and we are part of a big kind of, we'll call it universal play of these somewhat nonfiction Star Wars type of experience. These artists get these downloads, and/or are actually given some bit of the download by a lot of these types, these George Lucas types, or Spielberg, or any of kind of an open channel artist type. Usually they are getting off-planetary type of visions or imaginations where they themselves can't even describe exactly where they got it. So they're tapped into this kind of supra computer, this master Godhead, and they're just getting downloads of that, of some aspect of the narrative, of a much bigger narrative than just our small little perspective of our kind of nuclear families and our work slave society, and some of the things we've been hypnotized with in this age that we've come from. But people are waking up now. And the supra agenda that is over all of these agendas, however you decide to look at what's happening both in your personal life, your personal awakening, in your families, in your communities, in your countries, and globally, and then in the galaxy and beyond, however you decide to kind of create that narrative for yourself, because humans are meaning makers. So that's what we're doing. We're storytellers, we're meaning makers, and so that's what we're doing every single day. That's in the yogic science, that is what it means to basically create the self-concept. You're conceptualizing self, which is basically a virtual reality experience, if you want to put it in those terms, where you're creating in the frequency of the mind and the subtle body and the soul body, these more etheric bodies, you're creating in that virtual space, you're creating the 3D. That's basically another way of looking at the virtual reality experience, which I also had a great conversation about that kind of perspective with Sonia Barrett. If you haven't, I've been interviewing a lot of very interesting people. So you can look at it that way. But the super agenda over all of this, ultimately, the agenda that has the highest frequency, that is what's running all of this, and the reason why we don't have to be afraid, is love. And you could call it something else. You could call it, you could define it in all sorts of ways, because as humans, that word love, we use it in a strange way. We don't understand it. We can feel it. It is the unifying factor of all that is, but that highest agenda above all of these other agendas is the frequency of unity and love. And the sound current allows us to uplink to that truth, that beauty, that reality, and then we can choose to create that in our own personal lives. That's our choice, because we're humans and we have free will. But that, whether it's an agenda of some sort of more control and power and brainwashing, or an agenda that has more to do with the awakening of consciousness and the awakening of kindness and the awakening of goodness that is innate to the human species. Whatever it is, the master plan, the master frequency always is love. And as we uplink to that, it dissolves the fear, because the fear can't exist in the frequency of love. And I'm not talking about, the personal ways that we use love, because we're pretty confused about that particular thing. I'm talking about a much higher kind of unification frequency. And one thing I want to say is a householder who either maybe you're alone right now, which is very challenging and has its own set of challenges. So maybe you're physically alone right now, or you are with people who are driving you crazy. One or the other, if you're with your children, you're with your partner, you're with your family in some way. The whole game here on planet Earth is you incarnate into a separate body-mind system. It's a finite system. You're looking for ways to connect to the infinite system, so you can remember from whence you came and what that feels like and how to utilize that consciousness in the finite system, the earth to heaven, the heaven to earth. Many different lineages and religions and mystery schools have described it in different ways. So your job in this virtual reality is you've incarnated into finite, you're looking for ways to uplink to infinite, and all the while, whether it's a marriage or parenting, or whether it's your family, or whether it's your neighbor, or whether it's someone you don't like, which is the challenging part, you're looking for ways to create the interconnected frequency between you and what is supposedly not you. And in a marriage or in a family, the amalgamation of those frequencies in a partnership any kind of our personal relationships, the amalgamation of those frequencies together is what creates the strength of a family, the strength of interconnectedness. Now, if you're alone, and all of the sets of those kind of fears and things, everybody's grass is always greener. The people who are dealing with their kids wish they could get a minute alone. People who are alone wish they had, some people around. So it's part of the kind of human experience. If you're alone, at least physically, the interconnected power is, your job is to uplink and amalgamate the soul body and the subtle body with all that is, whether it's nature, or whether it's an animal, or whether it's an inanimate object. That's, everything has a frequency. And it's easy to play the game of virtual reality, or your experience as a human, where you're just buying into that loneliness or that aloneness in a certain way that creates suffering. Same thing with having a bunch of people around that are driving you crazy. There's narratives going on both sides of this, but the whole point of this is you are opening that finite structure to the infinite so that you can find the interconnectedness of all. And if you're in personal relationship that's close right now physically, that's what partnership is. That's what parenting is. It's an amalgamation of frequencies where your personal preferences are no longer the most important thing all the time, which is a spiritual practice. And the same thing with if you're alone physically, it's very easy to forget that interconnectedness is always available to you and you can uplink to it. But I do think that this time has been a time where we're feeling more of that because of the power of the virtual space has become more of a network consciously in the past couple of weeks. So we feel you, we know you're out there, we love you, and we're excited to practice with you in this very, very powerful window and opportunity, and just sending out all of our love frequency and the interconnected neural webs so that we can create a reality here on planet Earth and in symphony with the other planetary frequencies and the galactic frequencies, and how we're playing our part in a much bigger play. We just want to do our best. That's our intention, is we want to do our best and want to do better today than we did yesterday. We want to do better this hour than we did the last hour. So we're going to be doing a lot of cleaning of the fear from the psychomagnetic field. Even if you're not personally feeling it, it's in the collective, and we're just going to really clean that out so that the vibration can become very, very powerful. And we're going to, as we've been feeling, we're going to be really feeling our interconnectedness because the veil has been lifted. Many people are having experiences they've never had before spiritually through these kind of virtual and interweb. There's all sorts of kind of experiencing that's happening that somebody just texted me and said they've been astral traveling every night. They've never done that before. I mean, these are kind of common stories I'm hearing right now because the veil is very thin, and some of the forgetfulness about who we are and the infinite power of our interconnectedness is becoming much more accessible to us. So we're going to start here, as we do every day, with intelligence meditation.